attendance with the QR code and the link in the chat. We're very excited to have Professor Christelle Scharff with us here this evening or morning, wherever it is that you are. She's a professor of computer science at Pace University in New York. She is originally from France, and her research and projects have taken her to Senegal, the US, and Europe. She conducts grants and opportunities all over the world and connects education and technology. So without further ado, we will go ahead and turn our attention to Professor Scharff.
Okay, thank you, Louise. So I will also share my screen.
Can I just share that Christelle's an amazing teacher and she's a very inspiring person in a lot of people's lives. And she is also a friend of mine. I just wanted to compliment you, Christelle. Dr. Scharff.
Thanks, Armen, that's true. Yeah, we know each other for a while. We traveled also to Senegal. We were at the same time there, and it was great. So tonight I will talk about a very particular topic of technology. I will talk about AI and education. You have access to my slides also. I'll post the link at some point. Yes, I will post it afterward. Or I can do that first.
I already shared it. I shared it.
Okay, thank you so much. Yes, thanks. And so yes, who I am, I have a PhD in computer science. I studied in France. So as you can see also, I'm not a native speaker. I still have my accent. I've been in the US for a long time, but I'm still having it. I'm a university professor in New York City. I was a Fulbright scholar twice in Senegal. I love international also education. I live on 3 continents. In particular, I lived also in Cambodia for a while. I'm also an entrepreneur in education, in teaching like coding to young people and also like university students in Senegal. And I love languages. So natural languages like English and so on. And I took even Latin when I was in high school and middle school, and I loved Latin. I think it was really great for me to be very logical and to be good in computer science. And I speak also several languages, programming languages. So Java, Python, C, Kotlin, you name it. Okay, so that's about me. And so what I want to do in the talk is talk about AI, about some fun examples about AI, and then go into AI and education, give you some things to think about, and then we will have also some of you contributing and answering like a survey so that we see what did you get out of this presentation. So what is AI first? So AI is artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence appears first in movies. And even like you may have watched some of these. I'm just writing at the same time. One of the movies called 2001: A Space Odyssey. And I think that's a movie of 1981. And it's a science fiction movie, and it's about a computer called HAL, and he wants to take over humans. And in that movie, in fact, there are lots of things that robots that are, in fact, it's what is happening right now. There's another movie, it's called AI, Artificial Intelligence Itself. It's this one. There's Jude Law, if you know Jude Law, in the movie. And it's about a family who was a child who is in fact a robot. And in the movie, it's a lot about how robot can have feelings, in fact. So how do you make a machine have feelings? That's very difficult because that's really a human characteristic. And the third movie is because I really love Joaquin Phoenix. It's a movie, Her. And Her is about, so the main actor falling in love with a machine, in fact, and just by the voice of her. And then discovering also at some point that she is not only in love with him, but in love with lots of other humans, and that the relationship is not possible. So some very different types of movies, but that are already talking about artificial intelligence and how we know it even now. But the question some people are maybe wondering is, will the computer take over? It's not in the nearest future. Computers, they do what we tell them to do, and they cannot really do anything else. So you're already, in fact, using AI also in your everyday life. In fact, on social media, when you're taking a picture of you on Snapchat or on any other like social media, in fact, when you take a picture, it will like take lots of look at lots of the contour of your space, and it will look at how your iris looks like. It takes lots of measurement. You're not a person for the computer. You're just a set of pixels, in fact. That's all you are. And once your data are once you took your picture, the data are somewhere, and you don't know who has access to it, for how long, and so on. But you willingly put your data out there. It's fun, but we have to be aware of what is happening in the background. Where did all of this started? AI is a term that appeared, in fact, in 1956. So right now, if you read if you watch TV, if you read lots of things, they're talking a lot about artificial intelligence, but it's not something new. 1956, it's a term that was invented by Marvin Minsky. Okay, the term dated from there. So these guys, because they were guys, lots of guys in computer science, especially at this time, they found that in like a very short amount of time, in 2 months, they will deal with artificial intelligence. And what did that mean for them? So artificial intelligence for them, it's every aspect of learning or any feature of intelligence that exists. And they wanted to have a computer that could simulate all of this. So how can we, with a computer, simulate learning? How can we also simulate a form of intelligence? Now, also, artificial intelligence is very multidisciplinary also. Also, it's understanding even the brain. So there are lots of different definitions, lots of perspectives to look at it. And we need also to define the notion of what is intelligence. And we need to be very careful when we do that. There's intelligence when we learn, when we can handle complex situations, solve problems, take decisions, react, understand a visual image, but also show emotion, play music, be creative and imaginative, make sense out of ambiguous situation, be able to communicate and speak. All of these are forms of intelligence. Now, we want a computer to be able to be intelligence. So can we have a computer who can learn, a computer who can think, a computer who can show emotions? Sometimes we can. The computer may be able to do one of these things, but not all of them. So there is nothing, general intelligence, general artificial intelligence is not yet there. So in 1956, when they defined artificial intelligence, they said it's a construction of a program, a software, to engage in tasks which are, for the moment, more satisfactorily accomplished by human beings because they require high-level mental processes such as perceptual learning, memory organization, and critical reasoning. All of these tasks, even today in 2021, are more satisfactorily done by human beings still. Right now, we're talking a lot about artificial intelligence, but in a very particular situation. We are talking about, for example, natural language processing. Yes, someone was putting in the chat, we have Alexa and all, we have Siri, we have OK Google and so on. But that's a very particular task. The human, we can talk, but we can do much more things than this. And it's focusing also on recognizing an image. I will show you an example afterward. The basic example of computer vision is, can we recognize a cat and a dog? Okay, that's really good. That's really an advance, but really we need to do much more complicated and sophisticated things. So right now, artificial intelligence is here in focusing on how machine learn. How do I make a machine learn what is a cat and what is a dog? The only way a machine, what they see, it's pixels, a sequence of pixels, one by one. They see an image and they're looking at the pixels one by one. That's how they will recognize a dog from a cat. So if you take a picture from a dog that is different, a dog standing, a dog sitting, a dog laying, it will be also difficult to recognize all of this. And the way we do that, also make a computer learn, is what we call supervised learning. So I have this picture for supervised learning, because supervised learning, it's also how we learn when we were kids. We're looking at a book like this, and then there's a cat, and someone is telling us, oh, this is a cat. And now we know what is a cat. That's an elephant, that's a giraffe, and so on. That's how we learn. That's exactly the same way that a computer learns when we do supervised learning. So we're telling the computer what it is, and then we show a picture, and we ask the computer, can you distinguish what it is? Okay, so that's what is artificial intelligence. And in artificial intelligence also, there's a test that is very well known. It's called the Turing test. So Alan Turing is a computer scientist, very famous. At the beginning of the century, 1930 something was his high time. You can look at his story in the Imagination Game movie. So he is a very influential computer scientist, but at that time, computer science was mostly mathematics. And he wrote a paper in 1950. And in the paper, he said he wanted to set up a test so that we know at some point we have a conversation with a machine and we want to know, am I talking to a machine or am I talking to a human? And it was predicted at that time that by 2000, a machine may have a 30% chance of fooling an interrogator for 5 minutes. So even now, there's chatbots that you may have heard about. And you can chat with or some systems, and you say, hi, how are you? The system answer you, but really quickly, and even with Alexa, you can distinguish that, in fact, there's no intelligence there. You cannot have a real conversation like a conversation you will have with a human. So the Turing test is still a test that is not passing really by computers. And there's a competition each year, in fact. So some scientists, they try to beat the result of the previous year, but it's still not very satisfactory. Okay, so this was really for the definitions of artificial intelligence. And as you can see in the way I'm speaking, I'm not afraid that the robot will take over, because we are not there really at all. It's the programs that exist, they are built by humans, and the humans are much more, much smarter than the machine. And even if the computer has access to tons of data, I mean, they are still just following what the developer, what the engineers are telling them to do. Okay, so there are lots of applications of AI. So this is the AI tree. And in the AI tree, I hope you see well, as you can see, there are like lots of branches, and it has some foundations. So it's a multidisciplinary approach here that we need to take when you do AI. If I'm building a solution for the medical field, I'm a computer scientist. I know nothing about health and so on. So I need to pair with someone who has much more knowledge. So here it's the same. So it has some, AI has some foundation in psychology. Yes, even in philosophy. Because when we're developing, in any case, any software, any technology, we need to be able to understand the consequences. You have the mathematics here, computer science. You have biology also. Intelligence is the brain, and so on, linguistic and human cognition, logic, etc. So lots of things are the foundations. And then there are lots of different applications. So I could be an AI expert, but only work in game playing. So how do I make the computer play chess? And the computers, they know very well to play chess. What was a big breakthrough not many years ago was that a computer could play Go. Go is a much more difficult game. I don't know how to play Go. I barely know how to play chess, but you could be like just trying to make a computer play games. This is very, very trendy right now, autonomous cars. So that's another area of AI. But there's also speech understanding and natural language processing. So there's a writing, and there's also the voice, or in a text. In fact, even translation. You see very well that translation sometimes it's out of context. There's also computer vision, that's like how to recognize in a picture, it's a cat, it's a dog, and so on. Augmented reality is also part of AI. And here there are other things. I'm not going into some of the terms just because they're like a little too technical. But robotics is also part of AI, okay? Building robots and so on. So now, so that we have a little fun during this presentation, I have some fun examples for you of things that are online that you can interact with. So the first example is Quick Draw. So that's an example by Google that shows you, in fact, it's a can a neural network learn to recognize doodling that you're writing. And a neural network, it's a technical term, but it's really something. It's a mathematical model, in fact, that will permit to recognize something you write. So let's just do it. So I need to draw. So I'm putting the link here if you want to like follow at the same time. And then it say, oh, I need to draw a French fries. Okay, that's really great. I love French fries. And I have 17 seconds to do this. And
or marker.
Yeah, maybe it's
I see crayon. Or binoculars.
Okay, I will
or
put
asparagus.
it in
Oh, I know. It's French fries.
Okay, it recognized French fries. Bow tie. Okay, so I begin to write.
Oh, I know. It's bow tie.
Here, garden hose. Okay, here I need to pass because that's too complex. Roller skate. Okay, let's see.
I see nail. Horseshoe. Oh, I know. It's roller skates.
So you can try like this. And so how does this work? This algorithm. So that's done by Google and it's for fun. But in fact, there are lots of people who play the game. And even they probably had like some employees like or people they hired just to write to draw some of these. So here it's, for example, a lollipop. So they ask people to draw lollipops. Here we have more than 100,000 lollipops that were drawn. And what happens? Now the computer will be able to recognize lollipops. That's how it works. Because here it will look, okay, this image, it's a lollipop. Each image here is a lollipop. And the thing it will look at, it's like really pixel by pixel. It will look pixel, I'm doing like a pixel is really the smaller unit in an image. And you say, okay, and then it will realize that it always has a bar here and something around. That's what is happening. It does not know it's a lollipop. We know what is a lollipop. We know what we do with a lollipop, but a computer, it just looks at it as a sequence of pixels. So that's a fun example. You can look at other things, you can play around. And now there's another like example, is called teachable machines. And here it's teachable because we said like the AI, artificial intelligence, is going into, in fact, learning. So if you try, if you go to this link also, yeah, here it's a little more difficult to try out while I'm on the fly, while I'm doing it, because there's a need a little of preparation. So I prepared it just before the class. So here I'm, so everything is based on data. Your data can be text, it can be images, it can be videos. So here we want to teach the machine what is a cat and what is a dog. So what we are doing, we are giving images of cats. So I took some images. Yeah, here I took twice the same. So that's not very good data. And here I took like 5 dogs. So when I choose the data, you see that for the cats, I just took the head. For this one, I took a standing dog. So now what is happening here is I'm building a model, but this model will be only able to know what is a cat and what is a dog. I will not be able to ask this model what is a human. So here it's so in the background there are lots of mathematics. They build a neural network, and here I'm training it. And once it's trained, I can give it a picture and ask it, is it a dog or is it a cat? So I will try with myself first. And what does it say? It says, I'm a dog, I'm a cat. Okay. And I went to pick up my dog here. So I have a dog here, and let's see what it says. That's a dog. You agree with me? No, it says it's a cat. So this is not working very well, you see. So the quality of the input data is very important. So here I only have 5 cats and 5 dogs. If I really want to build a model, I need like tons of data. Like I would say here, like minimum 500 images of each. No? And the quality of the image is very important. And also here, all the images, they should like be the head. And here it should be like all of them like standing like this. So you see, it's like, and this algorithm is so limited because yes, I can only know if something is a dog or a cat, nothing else. So that was the second fun example. The next example also, which is, so all of this were not possible, I would say, if you look at, it's things that happened in the last 5 years. So it's really great. So here is the last, the next example. So here I want to draw. It will help me like draw something. So I can begin to draw it. I don't know how to draw. Okay, and you see, it's like finishing the drawing for me. Not very well, however, but that's what it is. So a person who will be designing this algorithm would really like observe what is happening, go in tweaking the algorithm, coming back, tweaking, coming back. It's very iterative. It's not like it's I would say, and lots of the things behind it, it's not random completely, but there is a little of this. So that's what you can do. What is, okay, an angel. So if I want to do an angel, Okay, and I will see what it will do, and it finishes by itself. And it learned from this because lots of people, they have in their database lots of angel drone. Okay, so that's another example of what could be done with AI. And something that is very interesting also is, so for this we use particular neural network, GAN, and it's about giving a picture, and then you have lots of pictures of, for example, an artist. So I will take Monet because Monet is very particular. And I would say, okay, I have all the Monet, and then I ask, can you apply like Monet style to my image? And that you can do it with a computer also currently. Okay, so it's an interesting and it's a fun example of how to apply AI. And the next example, like that is more related to what you are doing because you're working with languages. We can do lots of things in natural processing currently. And one of the things here is you could give to a computer all the books written by Shakespeare, and you could ask, you could build or someone would build a model, and you will be able to generate some Shakespeare-like text using AI. So the example that is here, it's like text that was generated by a computer. The cause why then we are all resolve more sons. But how long have I heard the soul for this world, and show his hands of life to prove to stand? It could look like, I'm not an expert in Shakespeare, but it could look like Shakespeare maybe, if some of you are expert. So we can generate completely text, that looks like it's written by a particular author. If we give the computer, again, lots of data, and the data we will give here is all the text written by Shakespeare. We could do the same with another author that you may think about. And this is done, in fact, it's not a very long program. Even here, the link I gave you, it's like to look at the code. You can look at it if you're interested. We use lots of libraries. We use a software called TensorFlow by Google, and we could generate this type of thing. So that was done by Google also. So lots of showcases of project. So in the chat, there's an example of an AI version of Harry Potter before. I'll check it out later, yes. So here also, technology is great. We can do like great stuff right now, but we always have to think about the consequences. So ethic. So I said that to build these things, we need data. We need data, images, videos, text. It can be also Excel spreadsheet. That's the first thing, in fact, that we have. I mean, there are tons of data available out there. But this data needs to be diverse, needs to represent everybody. And also, there are lots of problems with the data because the data do not represent everybody, first. And secondly, we don't have data from everywhere in the world. We have much more data, in fact, from the US, from Europe, than data from other countries, in fact. So here is an example of a bias in data that generated some problems. So this is a young researcher. In fact, I don't remember her name, but it's in the article. And she was a researcher at MIT, and she tested some software by very big companies, IBM, Microsoft. And she noticed that these software, sometimes could not even recognize a face. So they did not recognize a face because she's dark skinned. In fact, she's black. And the algorithms did not recognize her. Then the second thing, if you look at Microsoft, they could not recognize that there was a face. It could not recognize even that her age, and she was 22 at that time. And she could not, the algorithm could not recognize even a gender. And the algorithm from IBM could recognize that they could recognize a face. There was a face, but it says it's a male. She's 21. So 21, 22, that's pretty good. So that's why it's in green here. And there are some other software, they could not recognize absolutely anything, or some of them could only, yes, did a mistake with the gender. So why was this, why is that, why did this happen? It's because, in fact, we don't have enough data of Black people of people with different skin types. So we need much more diverse data. That's the first thing that needs to change. And also there can be also a problem in the algorithms. And the algorithms, in fact, also in general, they are built by white male, and that's also an issue. Of course, the area is a discipline of computing and of tech jobs are getting much more diverse, but it's still, however, an issue. So another example, and you see here, it's big companies where this problem is happening. Yes, I put the video that you will be able to watch it completely, where she explained all the issues. Now, here is a paper written by some scientists, and it was published in a very good journal or at a conference. And what they are saying is that they could infer the criminality using the face of people. So it means that they could look at your face and tell you if you're a criminal or not. So that sounds like very presumptuous to do that. And we know that this type of research that we call physiognomy is very scary, and nobody should talk even embark in this type of research. So here they said, okay, based on their algorithms, the people at the top, they were detected as criminals, and the people at the bottom were not criminals. I mean, when you look at this picture, what can you see, in fact? You can probably see that at the top, they look like very sad, and at the bottom, they have a small smile. In fact, also, when we use data, we have to use good data. And they started with biased data. So do you see anything the author may not have control for getting these answers? So really, their data was not good. So they could not even find something that is relevant. When you start with something that is not okay, you cannot have a good bias leads to wrong data. Exactly. Thank you so much. That's really well said. Another example of problems with data was Tay was a Microsoft chatbot. And Microsoft released that chatbot. They were very proud. And after several hours of use of the chatbot, in fact, the chatbot became racist and misogynist. So they had to remove it from the market. And they never put it back. And they tried another chatbot, and there were also some issues, and they had to also remove it from the from online. So here also we need to be careful. Of course, the computer and they reflect, in fact, the society. But here you need to be very careful when you release this type of software. Here it was a racist software. So here we see 6 pictures, very nice looking people, but in fact, these people do not exist. These pictures are not pictures of real people. They are pictures that were completely auto-generated. So you can go to this website. This person does not exist. And each time you click, in fact, another person is generated, and it's always someone that does not exist. So this picture could be used like for a fake profile on Facebook, on somewhere. It's written here how they generated it, also with a gun. And how do they generate that? They take tons of pictures and they say, okay, generate a new face from all these pictures. And they don't, it's not Photoshop, okay? It's much more advanced than Photoshop. But here also, it can mislead people. So we have to be very careful with what we see online. And someone is talking about fake news in the chat. So yes, exactly. This can be used to generate some bad stuff. So be aware about what you see online. Don't think that everything is true. So here is another example of what we could do. We can take like lots of videos and create a new video from this video. So let's just watch the beginning of it. So it's a video where we have, you will see, I'm just launching the video. You don't need really to hear the sound, and I'm not sure you do. So just let's watch it. Let's watch the beginning.
We're entering an era in which our enemies can make it look like anyone is saying anything at any point in time.
Jordan Peele created this fake video of President Obama.
Yes, so the question was, is that really Barack Obama? If you watch the video again,
Enemies can make it look like anyone is saying anything at any point in time.
Jordan Peele.
Does it look like him? Yeah, it looks like him. However, it's not him. It's not him. It's not even a video of him where they change the sound or so on, but it's let's watch the
Created
end of
this
it.
fake video of President Obama to demonstrate how easy it is to put words in someone else's mouth.
Moving forward, we need to be more vigilant with what we trust from the internet.
Not everyone bought it, but the technology behind such frauds is rapidly improving, even as worries increase about their potential for harm.
So it's not him, and this is called deepfake. So deepfake are videos that you may have seen out there. Putting there's one of someone else also, and from videos we can generate a video of someone else. And how can I detect it's not the person? So I could see the face. Personally, I can see that the face of Barack Obama does not look like this. He's much more handsome, in fact. But here, so we can see that, okay, it looks a little big here. And there's white space here, white space here, white space here. And that's really show us that it's a deep fake. But sometimes it can be very, very difficult to detect. So that's what we can do also with AI. But so this AI where you take all these videos and you create a new video with, here it was this person also. And as you can see, so it's this person who was talking, that's a starting video, and then they add the face of Obama on him based on tons of other videos of Obama that are taken online. So it means that when you put everything online, when you take a picture of you put it online, videos, you put it online, in fact, it can be used for malicious reasons. Okay, so be aware. And that's what we call deepfake. Okay. Sorry, I'm just switching between stuff here. And okay.
We're entering an era.
Okay, and here I never managed to do that. Yes, so we need to be aware of all these issues, and we need to fix AI. That's a big issue. Everybody is responsible. So first, we need to have like a really representative data that are diverse, that represent everybody. We need also the workforce to represent everybody, to be invested in the work they're doing, and also trained to be able to have this reflection on I'm releasing an algorithm, and what are the consequences of the algorithm? So there are lots of questions of ethics. The algorithms themselves, they can be really biased, not considering all the possibilities. And everybody, in fact, also needs to be now very digitally literate because of everything that can happen. I mean, online, the fake news and everything where your data can be used everywhere. And you have also always to wonder when you put your data, because when you take a picture of you, you're putting it online, it's in your network, who do you share it with? In fact, think about that. When you also say, yes, I want to share my data, when you click the yes, think about that too. Okay, so technology is always great, but technology has always a negative impact that we need to be aware. So now I would like to go through 5 ideas to use in your English courses. Okay, so maybe it's nothing new, but just have some reflection, and maybe you're using already AI and you don't know. So the first example is translation. I'm sure your students are using translation, and then you're like, okay, it's. I see also lots of students in non-English speaking countries. Yes, their computer is set up so that it's translated automatically, but I think they are missing out because they are not learning English this way. Translation are not always like a great also. So, you know, Google Translate, I just wanted to show you another, like it's a website. It's called DeepL, deep because basically behind it, it's also, you know, all this technology of neural networks. That's why it's called like this. It's a company in Germany, and it's very powerful. It's more powerful than Google Translate, in fact. Yes, Grammarly and so on. So the students, of course, they are using that, but what they could do also is contribute to the translation, because sometimes you can see that the translation are a little off, or sometimes really a lot off also. So some words are not translated the right way. I meet that all the time, but I don't take notes about what are the bad translations, so I could not give you an example right now. So translation, that's still very difficult to do, especially knowing the context of a word. But there are like lots of techniques that exist, but your computer does not understand the meaning of what you write. The computer will create some mathematical representation to be able to understand it. Okay, the second example is speech recognition. So some of you mentioned Alexa, and so there's Siri also on your phone directly. So here also Alexa has many limitations. Okay, I have an Alexa here. Alexa, what's the weather today?
In Arvin, it's 15 degrees Celsius with cloudy skies. Tonight, you can look for just a few clouds in the sky with a low of 8 degrees. Hope you've had a good Tuesday.
Okay, so it could tell me a lot about the weather, where I live. It can detect where I live, because on the phone, it can detect where I am. But now if I ask Alexa, how do I take the train?
I'm always being updated with new features, but you can help improve my voice recognition by completing voice training. You can also send feedback through the Alexa app
stop.
to let me know how I'm
Alexa,
doing.
stop. Okay, it gets on my nerves sometimes. But here what we could see is that I ask, how do I take the train? It does not know. There's a train near where I live, but it will not be able to tell me because it does not know how to access that information. So it can only do very, very specific things. So very limited. However, it's great, like sometimes I use it, and my husband also use it, like to speak to it so that does it recognize our accent. Okay, and so we will be able to train it. So that can be a really good application of it, like to understand your, or at least yes, my accent is not too pronounced and so on, to so that it can understand. And what is great also with Alexa, however, is that even if you have lots of noise around you, it still understands you. So the noise is completely discarded in the environment. You can watch that on this video, in fact. They explain you a little more about how it works. Next use of AI, some of you, and I see also, I want to acknowledge that some of you were here already on Sunday morning and you're back on Tuesday evening. So, and you were mentioning VR and how you're using it in your class. So VR is also artificial intelligence. So here on the top right, it's not completely VR, it's augmented reality. So I'm in a space, it's not me. Here it's a space where we have a table, you see even someone is sitting here. And on the top of it, you're putting like something, augmented reality object. And here it's like planets. And you could like use that to have children or even young adults like manipulate it. And so there's an app called Aeon XR. Why I'm mentioning this app, just because I discovered it like maybe 1 month ago, and it's like a Moodle, but it's a Moodle in augmented reality and virtual reality. So it's pretty interesting, and they have stuff for K-12 education, like okay, here are some introduction to conic sections. Okay, that sounds like a little boring, except if you're teaching this type of stuff. But they have like some nice lessons also, and it can be used really like a Moodle. And they even encourage like professors to create lessons. Now, I'm not sure like you need to like pay for it or so on. There's a version that is free, however. But VR is also artificial intelligence. So the next example. The next example, okay, yes, now it's a chatbot. We talked about the Turing test, and here it's an example of attempting to do a conversation. So there are also what we call conversational agents. But a chatbot, you probably know what it is. It's a conversation, and you write the text. You write some text. You get some answer. You can do that in WhatsApp. You can do that, we saw, I think, in Telegram. And here, in fact, it's, just let me remove that. And it's also in Facebook Messenger. So what I did, so I'm teaching computer science, but I told you I'm teaching coding to kids. And here it's an example of something I did with coding for high school students in Senegal. We do that online. They're finishing their chatbot for the 14th of May to submit it for a competition. And so we choose that they will write their chatbot in English. That was a good exercise for them. So they wrote a text in English that is a conversation on a subject that is linked with social. They needed to do a social chatbot. And then they coded the chatbot. And they coded the chatbot in a software called ChatFuel. It could be something else. There are tons of different software out there. So here, in fact, it's also, my idea was to teach them coding, but to teach them coding also with English. And so writing a chatbot, I mean, what was very important is writing a good text. And even in the design of the chatbot, in the documentation we got, it's from Facebook. In fact, the students, they had like lots of information about the tone you use in a chatbot, and how to make it much more interactive, the conversation, and so on. So I will do a demo of the chatbot written by a team. So they're high school students in Senegal, and they wrote it in English. Sorry. Okay, sorry. And here it is. And this chatbot they decided to do is called Stop Illegal Immigration. So illegal immigration is a big issue there, so they decided to do that. So I'm starting the chatbot. Sorry about this. And here it is. Hi, Christelle. I'm Stop Illegal Immigration. I will teach you about illegal immigration from Africa to Europe. Are you interested to learn more? Okay, I say yes. And then it says, oh my God, I think I get a notification if I'm writing something. And then it says, what topic do you want to learn about? Ibrahima's story, causes, consequences, risk, way of traveling. So they wrote a complete story about Ibrahima who is embarking in a boat and going from Senegal to Europe in a boat. And I'm not sure they finished to do it. So let's do something before. Let's look at causes. And then they have, okay, there are many causes. Let's cover some of them. Economic or socio-political? Okay, economic causes. And so here they have some text. And sorry about this. The notification are each time I type something. So here it is. Many people in Africa will live below the poverty threshold and so on, so on. And then they have like, okay, bring me back. So that's the menu going back and forth. And then now I want to know about Ibrahima's story. I hope they finish that. They're finishing it. And then, yes, we're beginning the story. So Ibrahima is a 13 years old Senegalese student whose dream is to become a professional soccer player. And he lives in a large family and so on, so on. And here you have the complete story of Ibrahima through their chat. So they wrote the text in English. They wrote it by themselves. I proofread it. I had someone else to proofread also everything they wrote, but the idea comes from them completely. And I asked them also where did the idea come from. So first, I mean, they hear a lot about illegal immigration, but I said, this story is possible, like a 13-year-old, and they told me, yes, it's possible completely. They heard about this type of stories. So here it was like, okay, the students are learning coding and they're learning at the same time doing a chatbot. Here this chatbot is not completely AI related, okay? If you really want an AI chatbot, you need to do like, much more things in the background, but we did not focus on the AI aspect on this chatbot yet. So in the same way, I teach also coding to kids and they do a game in Scratch. Scratch is a platform where they can like have a little character, make it go from one place to the other. And here also they need to write a story. When you do a game, you need to write a story. So English is, or French is super important. So here also it can be a very good idea of do things that are multidisciplinary. Yes, I'm very pleased with that app. I think they will, with that chatbot, I think they probably will win because it's really great. So now on the other side, I mean, as a professor of language, so there are lots of tools around that you can like have some ideas to integrate in your teaching. But on the other side also, as teachers also, and in our schools, there are tons of data that are generated. Even looking at how the students make on tests over the years, during 10 years, if you have all the data. So lots of the data are probably not digitalized. You're still grading on paper and so on, maybe less with COVID. But all this data could be used. Okay, so AI can be used to promote personalization and better learning outcomes. So personalizing the exercises, a student is doing exercises online, and then the software detects, oh, you have problems with grammars. You don't know that there's a S when we use he. Etc., etc. So it could detect some of the mistakes a student is doing, and then providing the student with personalized feedback, but also with some more exercises to practice with. So there are lots of examples available on this, lots of things that are done. If you're using something like Classes, Blackboard, Moodle, there are probably also modules that permits to know that. But there's a big report by UNESCO on artificial intelligence in education, challenges and opportunity for sustainable development. And they talk about lots of different types of AI project around the world. So there's one which is called M-Schule. It's a project in Kenya, and they deliver, in fact, their lesson through SMS, and they personalize also the SMS using AI. So that's an example. And all of this, again, is possible because we have the data. Here they're collecting data about the students. Each SMS, each answer is saved, and then all of this can be put together. You can find patterns, and you can really do very powerful things. So yes, that's almost the end of my talk, and I would be really interested in hearing from you. And I have 2 questions for you. So my first question is, based on what we looked at, is how would you use, how would you, or how do you use, would you and how do you use AI in your courses? And you can answer by going to this URL. If you go to this URL normally, yes, so you have, you can submit your answer, and then I will show all the answer of everybody. And the second thing is, tell me something about this presentation. What did you discover? What were you inspired with, or anything you want to share? 1 sentence about this presentation. So I changed the link with respect to Sunday. It's new links now. So I will now go in my, so it's Mentimeter, and I will see what you are saying. So I give you some time also, because you need some time to submit something. Okay, you're beginning to submitting. Here we see. So okay, we can like present already the answer. I can use rarely. I can use for translation the chatbot idea. I think there are like some chatbot to learn English also that exist. There are some apps and they are like a chatbot. At some points, it shows that you end up to a wall, like you cannot go further, but it's always good like to begin with. Chatbot. I like the idea of having the student produce and create things in a 21st century context. Yeah. I mean, using technology, it can motivate students, but you also saw that, yeah, there are the other side of technology. And also, we don't always have access to technology, or also sometimes technology is not allowed in our courses, yeah, in our classrooms. I would use Quick Draw for the little ones, yes. Yeah, drawing something, they hear the name, and it's a game, and there's a timer also. So that could be really fun for young kids. I would use AI to teach in the cases when I have to teach technical English, so I can expose students to a quite real environment. Exactly. Yes, thank you for sharing all of this. promote some language features, speaking and listening skills. Yeah, even showing the students the limitation of this translator. Like, okay, you could use the translator, but really use them knowingly, also using them to know what are the limitations and contribute. You know your language, and you see a translation, it does not make sense. So try to teach Google like that, how to use Google Translate. Teach Google. Sorry about this. And okay, so one sentence about the presentation. Interesting. The chatbot seems to have, yes, lots of you are talking about the chatbot idea. Yeah, in fact, it was an afterthought of, okay, like that the English was so important. But when I had to like correct the chatbot of the student, there are only 4 teams. But the 4 teams are doing very different things. And yeah, I was like, okay, I should have like asked Armen to be part of it, so that he can proofread the English.
Next time.
Yes, next time. Applying technology in teaching is awesome. Thanks for the brilliant informative presentation, chatbot. And yes, making it accessible. I think that, yeah, every topic could be made accessible. And the issues related to artificial intelligence that we should not discard, yes, because they are very important. And yes, try out DeepL. It's DeepL because it's really a very powerful tool. So thanks very much for your attention, your contribution, and I will then try to answer the question you had in the chat, because you were very engaged in the chat also. And you can use your microphone or use the chat to write something.
I think so. If people who are posting in the chat now want to go ahead and unmute themselves, I think this is a good time. There's only 26 of us here, so we're not all fighting for microphone time. Christelle, I had, I guess, one question to kind of get us started. I really liked how you were using the chat box or having students create a chat bot. About how long was that like project management cycle from start to finish?
So we had 5 sessions of 2 hours. So on Zoom, so the first time it was just like mostly talking about what we will do. The second time we did a chatbot, like each student did a chatbot, very simple. Then the third time they began to write the story, brainstorming and write their chatbot. And they were in their breakout rooms, basically. The first time also in their breakout room, and also writing. And the 5th time we implemented. That was last Saturday, in fact, that they began the implementation of the chatbot in Chatfuel. And they were also in breakout rooms. We did like first everybody together, then they went to work alone. And now we have a last one on Saturday, but their work is due on the Friday, so they need to be done before. And we interact with WhatsApp basically. And I would say that yes, as you can see, even it's the writing is twice, and I had only maybe 1.5 day, let's say, if it's in days, a unit of implementation of coding. Because something that everybody needs to know is that coding is, once you know what you're coding, it's easy. it's all the other work after. So they wrote the text, but also they put the logic of the chatbot, because they had to do like a tree where, okay, if someone is pressing yes, I'm going in this direction, pressing no, that's what will happen. So they draw also this chatbot on paper, or they had another software also, but most of them draw it on paper. So all this thinking is before coding, and coding is like, I would say the writing will be maybe 3 sessions and the coding 2 sessions. Because in the coding we will test also, like tomorrow we're beginning testing. So that's where we'll try to see, oh, what do I do now? I'm here and there's nothing I can do. So explain, improve your chatbot.
I thought that was so fascinating and so relevant. It makes people feel like they produced something tangible and interacted with their subject matter. So thank you so much for that inspiring idea. Are there other questions? I see a lot of thank yous in the chat. Did anyone want to follow up with a specific question for more information?
I'm looking at the chat also. Yeah, the notion of being practical, yes, of building things is very important in the also the multidisciplinarity is also can be also a good way. And even with Armen, we did a class on English for cybersecurity. So the students learn about cybersecurity, but they learn it. They were also high school students, and they learn about it in English. So they learn about, okay, having a good password, or what is a hacker, what is a white hacker, or white hat hacker, a black hat hacker, etc. So that was also putting in context. And they did also a dialogue, and they could like play it, and so there are lots of different. If it's interactive, it's always more interesting. Watching movies also and discussing. I mean, the movie I did a class. In fact, even at the university, I did a class on movies and compute. I don't remember the title, but I was paired with an English professor, and we had the student watch movies. They watch these 3 movies that I cited, and they had to do after a movie by themselves also. I mean, it was like 10 years ago, so we did not have so many what we have now, but they use a camera, they recorded themselves, and they played something related to the impact of computers in everyday life. And that was really, it's at the university, and that was a very good experience. And in my university, we emphasize this kind of collaboration, interdisciplinary. And I did it also once with a professor in philosophy, and he was teaching logic, and the student had to implement also some software to do logic stuff, logic puzzles and so on. And I'm just taking the link to the slides and put it here again for if you missed it. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Christelle.
Hello, can I ask Professor Christelle a question?
Yes, Winda.
Of course.
Yes, I am Winda. Good morning, bonjour. My question is, I want to introduce AI to my students. It's a Google Translate. And I'm worried about if they really rely on the Google Translate. I mean, it may take over the, like a dictionary. So they will really rely on it rather than they will open like a dictionary. Then how do you address to that issue that they will really rely on AI? Thank you.
So my take on this question, which in fact a professor of English would be much more knowledgeable on it, but what I can say is just as a user of these systems, I would like find sentences to translate that are not well translated by Google Translate, and I would ask the student to contribute, because there's somewhere where you can, even in DeepL, you can say this translation is good. Okay, you can say if the translation is good or it's not good. Okay, so that they can at least also see that sometimes the translation are not very good. And in Google Translate, even here, you could probably somewhere also contribute and say, oh, I want to explain that it does not work. And you can upload, you see, glossaries and things like this. So you can have an exercise where you ask them to be very critical about how it's translated. And maybe Louise and Armen have something else to say about this, because that's also something we need to fight, of having like only translations.
I think that just like technology in general is, I'm hesitant to tell teachers or students never to use it, because I don't really think that's a 21st century skill. I think a good example that we're doing at my school right now is we had something called a photo math challenge, where photo math is something where you can take a picture of a math problem and it will solve it for you. And they actually did photo math challenges where they had a student do his homework by photo math for 1 week without ever working out the answers himself. And then another student was never allowed to use photo math. And then they both took the same test to see grades that people got. And it was just kind of interesting to have students like test themselves with and without machines. And I think it's like a good exploration. I had never thought of the idea of asking students to break down Google translations, but I think I'm going to do that in my classroom, because I love that idea. And I like the idea that the students are building the logic and reasoning for why they wouldn't use it, instead of me just telling them not to.
And
are there any other questions that we would like to ask? I feel like that's a really good question and could bring about a lot of good activities.
Yeah, Brian was also saying had a very good idea of exercise also in the chat, of asking Brian if you want to talk. I don't know.
Yeah, I can just briefly, but the chat was pretty much self-explanatory. I do have to admit to say I wasn't smart enough to come up with this activity. It was something that another colleague did that I thought, well, this was actually kind of a good idea. So I have to give her credit. But I've used it from time to time when I was teaching language classes. That I kind of inspired by this, I might actually do with my teacher candidates that they're native English. Most of them are native English speakers, but they are learning how to work with English learners in their P12 schools in our area. So this might be something I could kind of do the same thing with them, but kind of the other way around. But what I did was I had them write a paragraph in English, like introducing themselves, their name, their age, favorite activities, that kind of thing. and then they copied and pasted that paragraph like from English and then into the Google Translate, and then had it translate that paragraph into Spanish, because I was teaching Spanish at the time. And then they took that, copied and pasted that paragraph that was translated, kind of put it back into Google Translated, and translated that translated paragraph back into English. And it became sort of like totally nonsensical. And so, you know, the goal was kind of help them kind of get the idea that, and I've always kind of counseled them, and I even do it myself, where, you know, maybe using it kind of like a dictionary. If it's a word or something, you know, it might work, not always, but it, you know, if you use it that way, it's fine. But once you kind of get beyond the word level, you know, that's where you're going to start running into trouble.
And then there's a very good point on Mandumbe, that, yeah, the context, the culture are not taken into account also, yeah, in the translation. And yeah, it's like taking a sentence out of context sometimes, and it completely changes the meaning of it. Mm-hmm.
Multiple words, multiple meanings. Yeah, it's easy to look at technology and think that it will solve every problem that exists. But then if you only look at technology, then you don't use your brain power as much. So I try to encourage my students, when they're always on Translate, like, it makes sense for words, right? So they can get the original word. But if they're writing the whole sentence or like a whole book in Translate, which I saw my student today doing, they're reading a book and they wrote the whole book. Like, they're writing the whole page, 2 pages in Translate. And it's like, let's try to go through it together. I'm just trying to say, like, balancing using technology and using your own brain, but it doesn't mean the students don't have the brain power. They just maybe don't know how to use it on their own.
Are there any other questions or doubts? Well, Christelle, that was a beautiful presentation. I'll just echo something that Brian said, that you took a really complex issue and made it very comprehensible for people. Made it very relatable and interesting. I think that we all do something that we could use immediately. I know I'm going to kind of look into chatbots and the quick draw tool. So I think the ability to take something so complex and break it down and make it accessible is a wonderful skill. So we thank you for being here today. The beetles to cockroaches. Yes, I have seen stuff like that happen too. Khadija, yes, I've seen things like that happen. Okay, wonderful. Are there any other questions or things that people want to say? If not, I think we can go ahead and wrap it up. Everyone can give either an emoji or an unmuted round of applause for Christelle. That was an amazing presentation. Okay.
And if possible, if you could give Christelle a little feedback.
Wonderful.
Oh, is that a little dog there? Is that dog?
And for the dog as well.
You missed the dog, I think, Armin.
Very much. I
That's why
missed
to recognize the dog and the cat. You did not recognize the dog.
I love the dog though. Well, thank you, Christelle, for sharing your wisdom with us. And I think if you can get one idea and try to bring it into your class in a small way, it can maybe bring a new experience. So this is what we want to do, right? Bring a new idea. And I think Christelle did a great job of sharing everything that's happening, and then it's our chance to think, what can we apply? One thing. Like I may use the picture one. I'll try it.
Thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for having me.
Thank you. So with that,
Okay,
have a great night or morning. Is that a Jeff?
Jodiaf, yes.